About some road closures happening.
Road closures, power lines down. What's your latest information there, Bobeth?
So now we've moved again. We're now on Indian Trail, Lilburn Road, just south of 85, where the road has been flooded. If you look behind me, you can see Beaver Ruin Creek has overflown its banks, taking over parts of the road. Now the creek and the road becoming one. As folks are trying to maneuver this way, it's completely closed, shut down again by Indian Trail, just between Willow Trail Parkway and Oak Brook Parkway. Again, the area closed. And if you look over here, just by the creek, you can see how bad it is. This was all grassy area and the creek is really back there, but now the creek water has made its way out onto the road just by Indian Trail. Another thing I wanted to show you, like how much this has risen. A lot of people have been talking about the rising waters. When you go closer to this bridge, you kind of can see the perspective of how much water has risen. If you look right here, and it actually started going down since we've been out here, but right here you can see just how close the water is to the edge of that bridge. Officials told me that it's normally somewhere between 4 and 6 feet from the bottom of the bridge to the water. Now it looks like it's literally inches away as that water rushes through. Now, again, since we've been out here for the last, I would say about 45 minutes, it does appear that the water is slowly going down, but it is still pretty high. The road is still closed here on Indian Trail, just between Willow Parkway and Oak Brook Trail. Parkway. Also, officials are telling people to stay out of this area because of the closure, and they're also just wet grounds. They're saying just kind of avoid the traffic and the headache. But right now, this section of Indian Trail is shut down as folks are trying to come up with ways around it. Again, this is south from just south of 85. So if you were on 85 or got off at Indian Trail, right as soon as you get off, you can see the water overflowing its banks by Beaver Ruin Creek, rising so much that it is close to the edge of this bridge by inches. Officials say this is not impacting just here, a little south of here. Lilburn Park also flooded over there, also getting that water from that Beaver Ruin Creek. Of course, officials again saying avoid the area. We have seen a couple people coming around to look. They've been letting them look but directing them away because they don't want any accidents. But the water just seems to be flowing very quickly, so you just kind of want to stay away from it. But right now there's no time period have been given for when Indian Trail will reopen, but we know it's closed again between Oak Brook Trail Parkway and Willow Trail Parkway on Indian Trail, Lilburn Road. And I'll send it back to you guys in the studio now.
You know, Bobeth, you've covered a lot of ground in the last 9 or 10 hours and seen a lot of pockets of different communities, and our meteorologists have done a great job of really helping us understand how wide and massive this system was. Is that what you're seeing? Because you're kind of showing us, you know, a little snapshot at each place you stop, but there is a commonality that everyone's dealing with a lot of power lines down, a lot of trees down, and a lot of water.
So that's what I've noticed from all the way when we started off at Peachtree Creek, then went to DeKalb, then to Athens, then to Gwinnett. It's definitely been the same thing over and over. Widespread flooding, a lot of saturated ground, trees not able to hold it together, falling on the trees, bringing down power line. So it's just been an ongoing problem for multiple areas. It seems that this storm, even though it was moving quickly, it just packed so much energy, so much rain, that the impacts are similar, and it's a widespread area. The entire metro Atlanta appears to be having a similar impacts. All of our area creeks seem to be close to their levels. Many people saying they're reaching almost record levels. So it doesn't appear that this is just, you know, one area or one part of the town. Literally from Athens to Gwinnett, all the way back into the city, we were seeing the same thing. DeKalb, to the point where parking lots were flooded, impacting cars and preventing people from leaving and causing causing a lot of damage, because you imagine you leave your car there, it's parked safely, then you get back and you have water damage inside your car from, you know, the water getting in. So a lot of impacts, and I think the recovery will be a lot for a lot of people, and I don't think it's going to take days to actually get this back together, because even when the water subsides, you have to deal with the damage that water created. So it's going to be take some time for people to get back whole.
All right, Bobeth, thank you. And we continually wish you a safe drive as you make your way around the area, because we know a lot of roads are closed. And so as people try to get to these spots, they're going to get turned around a lot. We just don't want you to run into any situations that can be dangerous because your normal routes might not be able to be passable.
And you understand why the message from mayors, from the governor, kind of across the board is don't go out if you don't have to. Crash Clark has been watching the roads for us. And Crash, you understand why when you have a big tree on a major highway, that is a snapshot of a much bigger picture that people want to avoid if at all possible.
Absolutely, Cheryl and Aisha. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was just talking to one of our bosses in the newsroom, and they were like, well, if traffic calms down, you can go home. And I just realized and found out that I have no power at home now. I had power all night last night, and now no power. So there's no sense in going home. I'm in Sandy Springs, by the way, just off of Roswell Road and Hammond Drive, if you guys are familiar with Aston and City Springs. All no power. There you go. Here are the trees, and boy, this has been quite a project trying to get. This was not just one or two trees. This was like an entire bunch of trees that just either one fell and took 2 or 3 of his friends with him. But this has been quite the cleanup on the connector southbound past University. We've had 1, 2, 3 right lanes blocked. I mean, probably for the last hour and a half, maybe 2 hours now. But the only bit of good news is you see that flow of traffic on the connector. It's so light. There's so few people out there that if you have to go off to the airport, sometimes you like to take the west side perimeter or even the east side perimeter, you're fine going through downtown. That is not a problem. Let me get out of the way and give you a picture here. It looks like they're doing a good job getting those trees out of the way, but certainly quite a project. Let me just zoom in on that. Oh, well, you know what? Let's take it up here. The flooding that Bobeth was just talking about off of Indian Trail south of I-85. I want to show you one of my cameras because I've got another perspective from you. She was kind of on the ground level there. Let me see if I can get the camera. Hang on a second. I'm going to cycle through 1 or 2 things here, and then I will get my camera and show you exactly. All right, there we go. Now you can get another better picture here. I'll step back in for just 2 seconds here and just kind of point. All it is right here. Look at that huge amount of water all coming from that creek, and you see the barrels. They've got them out here. They've got both sides of Indian Trail. You can see the barrels here. I've been watching people cutting through that Quick Trip and McDonald's. They are turning you around. So again, this is something we are going to see more and more of, as we get more daylight, as we just continue to assess all the damage. But again, that's one of those areas, Indian Trail south of I-85. Just completely avoid that. All right, everything else, like I mentioned, not the worst shape. There's that Indian Trail flooding there at 85. And of course, we still have our trees that are down connector southbound at University. As far as anybody else on the roads are concerned, look at that big 3, 75, 400 and I-85 all in fantastic shape. But again, if you don't have to drive, stay hunkered down. Ladies?
All right, Crash, thanks a lot. At 10:46 on this Friday morning, we've got water rescues happening in one part of the city and a lot of work trying to restore power in another.
Yeah, more than 1 million people in our state offline right now. Georgia Power crews, about 1,700 of them being dispatched to get everybody back. Savannah, we're glad it's daytime, but still not having power is a huge headache. What are you seeing with those efforts there in North Druid Hills?
Yeah, glad it's daytime and glad it's not raining anymore, but that ground is still so saturated that we are still hearing and seeing trees coming down. Right now we're in North Druid Hills, right outside the former North DeKalb Mall. It's now Lula Hills. So I first came upon this area right here, where by North Druid Hills Road and Birch Road, about 8:30 this morning, and we're live right now, and they are still working to get these trees off these power lines. Now, it's had kind of a ripple effect because this tree fell on this very popular thoroughfare from Decatur to Atlanta. All of these traffic lights have been out as well. So there's been a lot of confusion for drivers driving around. There was another I would say another 3 or 4 trees down as well, just within a mile of here. You might see or hear that fire truck driving down right now. They might be going to another one of those. But I can also tell you I'm seeing a lot of flooding in this area, areas where water is pooling up. We're seeing a lot of crews out here, Georgia Power working to restore that power. So in DeKalb County right now, about 44,000 people are without power. In the city of Decatur, that number is about 700. So it's still a relatively small amount, about 13% of all customers, but still significant, less than what we were seeing in the overnight hours, but a lot of people still without power, and those power lines are really dangerous, guys. I've seen a lot of people try to drive up and try to drive over them. In fact, I saw police pull someone over after they drove over a power line. You just don't know if they're live or not. In fact, I just talked to crews here on the scene, and I asked if this power outage, particularly with these traffic lights, if that happened because the tree came down or if they turned it off so that Georgia Power could work on this line. And they said that the power outage is because of this tree down. So it's really tricky for these crews to try to navigate turning them off or knowing when they're off to be able to work on it. So you can see kind of right there on the power line, you see a bit of a tree there, but this part of the street still blocked off, has been for several hours. And this is not the only area, guys. Lots of areas closed. So certainly if you don't have to drive today, don't. This part of North Druid Hills Road is generally very, very busy, would be on a Friday morning, Friday early afternoon, but very few cars here right now. Obviously, we've got school canceled. I've gotten alerts from a lot of nearby businesses in DeKalb and Decatur saying that they are closed for business as well today. So again, if you don't have to drive, certainly don't. These crews working really hard, but it is long and tedious and careful work. So if you don't have power yet, I guess just try to remain patient and know that these crews, as you mentioned, Aisha, they are out there in droves and they're doing their best.
You know, Savannah, it's such an interesting and important perspective as we watch one crew working on one line down from one tree, and you multiply that exponentially across the city, across the state. You can understand why Georgia Power says, hang with us. It's going to take some time. It's tedious work. They have to be very careful. These are live wires, right, Savannah? As you've just been watching this crew now for about 45 minutes behind you. And it was interesting, Savannah, the CEO was talking about how they're even using drones to assess the damage, maybe to see which areas one fix could have the greatest impact in terms of which line is impacting the most households out there and prioritizing those fixes.
Yeah, Cheryl, I think that's a really good point on several counts. First, that you're saying that, you know, this is one guy with Georgia Power working on this. Generally, if we see a down tree on power lines, you see a multitude of crews out, many people at once, but clearly they have spread their resources. So it might be a little slower that the work is getting done, but it just kind of speaks to the magnitude of how many outages there are, how many trees there are down, how many power lines have been impacted. But I think it's also a good point when you're talking about identifying the power lines and the outages that are most critical. So right now, this one has been worked on for, I mean, again, since about 8 this morning, and it's connected to a lot of, and they just popped back on. If we could look at these traffic lights, this is the first time, and they're still flashing, and they're back off again, but it looks like they're testing them right now to try to get them back up. But this power line seems to be linked to an entire grid of traffic lights. Looks like our traffic signals just live now just went back up here on North Druid Hills Road. Looks like they're going to work now to clean this debris off of this road and open it back up. But it is really important for them to look at the grid and realize which power lines are the most significant and are going to cause the most danger. And when you're talking about 7, 8 traffic lights that are out because of this one line, this one right behind me was certainly priority. I see a lot of people driving through these back neighborhoods trying to get around these closures. I'll tell you, I tried to do the exact same in that North Druid Woods neighborhood, and there are at least 4 trees down in that neighborhood right now, and they don't even have crews working on them yet. Police just have the area blocked off. So it's definitely a matter of prioritizing those most important areas right now. But if you're blocked in, just be patient. We'll get to you eventually.
You gotta love live TV, Aisha. I never thought I'd be so happy to see a red light.
Yeah. The lights are back on, Savannah. Thank you for being out there and bringing that to us live. Let's go back to where we just just witnessed those boat rescues happening in the Hanover West neighborhood. 11 Alive's Liza Lucas just talked to some of those families who got off the boat. Liza, what can you tell us? Are those rescues complete there?
No, actually one is underway right now. They're bringing a family on shore. This family does not want to be on camera. We totally get that. They've been through a lot, so that's why we turned our camera away. I am going to step out the shot just to again remind you of the proximity of the Hanover West neighborhood to Peachtree Creek and just let you look at how the water is flowing over here. It's really, sorry, I'll give you another better look over my shoulder. You can see the back fences right there about 100 feet away, and then there's the creek. Again, this is a neighborhood that flooded back in 2009, but hey, that's almost been 20 years now. A lot of people have moved here since then. These homes have been built up on stilts. So this was a scary moment. We talked to one mom who came off of a boat earlier. She's actually a local elementary school teacher. Her name's Maggie. Take a listen to her experience.
It was really probably about 5:30 or 6 a.m. this morning. When I fell asleep for a few hours around 2:30 or 3, and I really thought it was going down. At that point, based on the prediction I saw on one of our river websites, and so I was shocked when I got up again at about 5:30, 5:45, and saw that it was really getting closer to the house.
Can you tell us about your house? I know some houses are up over here. How's your home this morning?
Yeah, our house is on a crawl space, and so we know that's flooded, and our garage is flooded. Thankfully, my husband and my son moved the cars at about 3:30 this morning, and our sunroom runs along the back of the house, and that has water in it, but that's maybe about a foot or so, maybe 6 inches recessed from the rest of the house. So we're hoping it stays contained to that. I think that they are tired, a little excited. My daughter just got a bunch of messages from friends who saw her on the news. But we have a lot of family close by, so we'll be heading to my mom soon with lots of food and hopefully some rest, so we can all kind of decompress.
Neighbors seem to have been checking up on each other most of the night. They're here waiting for you once you got off the boat.
We have the best neighbors, and we've had people from all over the area sending messages, and many I haven't got a chance to reply to, but yeah, our neighbors took really good care of us, and they always do. This is a great community, so we're very thankful for that.
The first responders coming out on a boat, I'm sure that's never in your wildest dreams when you went to bed last night.
That was, they were very impressive. They're very calm, professional, and we are so thankful they're here. Yeah.
At what point during the morning did you start realizing?
So again, you just have a little perspective about what this family went through overnight. This is just one family out of the many that we know were impacted by the flooding, whether it was Nancy Creek or Peachtree Creek or other areas around the metro. Flooding's been a top concern. Again, off camera right now, we have another boat coming up, bringing another family back on shore, away from their home, which they'll leave behind for a little while as they kind of go through the next step, which is wait for these floodwaters to recede and then figure out the next step from there in the cleanup process. But the community's on shore, guys. That's the best thing to see. And again, we're glad to see that and be present for that part of the story too. Sending it back to you.
Yeah, I guess as we all go through each layer of this together, it was like the preparation for Helene layer. It was bracing as Helene arrived. Now it's getting people safe. And then the next phase will be kind of what that woman was saying, will be the cleanup from the damage that happened inside homes.
Yeah, Liza, and this might possibly be the last people coming in, but that's what we were saying yesterday, was checking those insurance policies. We even did a verify about, is flooding actually covered under that insurance, and sort of getting all that paperwork and data together. So it sounds like mom is going to have her work cut out for her, but just right now basking in the moment that the entire family is safe. But even if your home wasn't impacted this time, we are still in hurricane season, right? This might be a good reminder to get your affairs in order if we see this again.
That's right, but you know what? I got to give a shout out to Maggie because she's an elementary school teacher. We know that whatever is coming her way, she's able to handle it. And her husband was telling me that, yes, they're all rattled by this circumstance and having to go through what they did, as are their neighbors and the many around Atlanta in the aftermath of Helene. But at the same time, it's going to be a good story when kids go back to school. They're never going to let her forget it. That's for sure.
All right. Liza Lucas, thanks a lot. We know you're going to stay there, assess the situation. A lot of new information is coming in. We just found out a fire station was damaged in Coffee County. There are still rescues happening. A lot more to cover for you as our special coverage continues.
Wrapping up special coverage as we officially go into 11 Alive Midday News. The news is always on 11 Alive Plus.
Brought to you by America's Freight Railroads. We deliver just about everything you care about. That's why we invest about $23 billion back into our network every year to remain the safest and most fuel-efficient way to move your most important stuff.
Order Pizza Hut now and get a free large pizza later, so you can pizza now, then pizza again.
For many Americans, a single medical breakthrough provided relief from unnecessary pain, amputation, and death. Especially seniors, minorities, and potentially all who have diabetes. Now bureaucrats are threatening to withhold that care, leaving no other options. Don't let these bureaucrats strip the care out of Medicare. Who gave them the right to decide who lives and who doesn't? Diabetic Wound Awareness PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Friday nights are all about
Team 1-1. Woo!
The best highlights, viral plays, star-studded recruits. Because at Team 1-1, it's all about high school football. Maria Martin hosts Team 1-1 Friday night at 11:15 on 11 Alive, sponsored by Sonic. Eleven Alive News Midday starts now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to 11 Alive Midday News here at 11. I'm Aisha Howard.
And I'm Cheryl Preheim. Right now, Georgia, Florida, surrounding states, all in recovery mode.
Helene has been downgraded to a tropical storm, but it is surely making its presence known in Georgia and has been all night. We are still under that flash flood emergency in our area. That is happening until 1 p.m. So some of the impacted cities there, Riverdale, East Point, Atlanta, Tucker, Decatur, there are nearly 1 million customers in the dark without power all across our state. And the storm is being blamed for at least 3 deaths in Georgia. The Pierce County Fire Department confirmed a firefighter was among those killed when a tree fell on his vehicle during the storm in Blackshear.
Governor Brian Kemp issued an executive order bringing in an additional 1,000 Georgia Guard troops to help with the recovery efforts. Governor Kemp releasing a statement this morning saying, as we continue to assess Helene's impact throughout Georgia, our hard-working response teams across the state are attending to casualties, widespread power outages, property damage, and flooding. And we expect to hear from Governor Kemp in just a few moments. So stay with us as he provides an update on the situation across the state. We know the southern part of the state was hit the hardest.
Floodwaters in communities across metro Atlanta today. Take a look at this video showing the moments Cobb County fire crews rescued a trapped driver inside a flooded out car. This happened off of Fontaine Road in Mableton. You can see the front of that car. It went down. It was almost completely submerged there in the water. water. Officials tell us you see any standing water, you come across the road, it has always been the message, turn around, don't even try it.
Well, the first responder literally carrying that gentleman out on his back. And this is video from West Club Drive in Atlanta. You see downed power lines there and downed tree branches. This is just off Peachtree Dunwoody Road. This is a scene we're seeing in so many neighborhoods across metro Atlanta.
In Fulton County, high water near Sagamore and Northside Drive at the Bobby Jones Golf Course. That's kind of turned into Bobby Jones Lake a little bit. Let's check out some video sent in by an 11 Alive viewer. There it is. If you know anything about this area off Northside Drive, it's beautiful. It's a lot of greenery. We can barely see the course right now because it is completely covered. Meteorologist Chesney McNeil has been with us around the clock as well, tracking this weather impact alert as we still are feeling the impact here, Chesley.
Yeah, and a lot of it is gone. As far as the rainfall goes, it's subsided. The winds will start to die down gradually as we head through the rest of the morning, but we still have an 11 Live weather impact day. All day long we'll be looking at this because the wind's still strong enough, those gusts still strong enough that they could knock down some trees. We're going to be dealing with this flooding for a long time. Flooding takes a long time to matriculate. You know, all that water that came down started pounding on the roads. Well, that's got to run somewhere, right? It goes back to our area creeks and streams, and so the flooding will continue to take place, folks, or be slow to recede. So also we could see more power outages because of those down trees. So be on the lookout for that as well. Make sure you have the necessary room, a place to go to, and have batteries there, things you need to keep life charged up, especially your phone, so you can get the alerts passed on to you as well. You're looking at the rain right now, not much at all. We had that very heavy rain we were talking about all night long, all morning long, and now that has begun to move up to the north along with the center of circulation, what's left over from Helene, starting to slide a little bit further to the north and moving very rapidly as well. A few sprinkles up here to the north, which you see down here to the south, not reaching the ground, but we're already saturated, of course. Even the clouds starting to break up just a little bit. We do have some low-level clouds around, so you're not going to see much in the way of sunshine. You may get a sliver or two, but that'll be it. Here's what we have left over from Carticade over toward Juneau, Lewitville, over to Calhoun as well. You got some light sprinkles left over, maybe some areas of drizzle around the area. That's about it. Our rain is over for today. Once this gets out the way, we don't have to worry about anything at all. It looks clear here in Atlanta, but we do have the low-level cloudiness that is over us. So again, you may see some breaks in the clouds, but for the most part, we're dealing with mostly cloudy skies. It's going to be a dreary afternoon, along with the winds that's going to be out there. Those gusts could be as high as 25 miles per hour at times. The storm itself is moving up to the north. You can see on the east side of it, we still have the severe weather, some severe thunderstorm warnings, and also a tornado warning over toward the Raleigh area. That's into North Carolina. We're on the back side of this, and so things are starting to dry out just a little bit for us, and so good sign there. But again, be alert over your surroundings because of those winds and the fact that trees probably beat up a little bit, certainly weighed down from all the rain, and so they still could fall. There's the storm right there, mainly up to the, just outside of our state now, pushing further off to the north, moving at a rapid speed now, moving into the north at about 32 miles per hour, winds at 45 miles per hour, so it's holding on to its tropical storm characteristics, but will continue to slide to the north where it will continue to weaken and probably become post-tropical by this afternoon, and we'll be done with Helene finally out of the way. There's the winds. These are sustained winds. You're looking at winds up to about 20 miles per hour in some spots. In fact, just clocking one right now in Marietta at 21, 17 right now in Atlanta, and then you got them a little bit weaker down here to the south. And when we talk about the gust, we're talking about the gust in the 25 to 30 mile per hour range. A little stronger the further east you go. Like Gainesville, you're at 31 mile per hour gust, 33 up here toward Clayton, where the center of circulation is a little bit closer to you. But again, we'll get better as it continues to pull up to the north. Also in the higher elevations of the North Georgia mountains, the winds will be a bit stronger because of the elevation there. So again, be on the lookout. As far as the temperatures go, right now we're in the 60s, and I think we'll get to the low 70s, and that's where we're parked today, right around 73 degrees for your afternoon high temperature today. In fact, your forecast shows the rain just about over. We just have the sprinkles out there. We'll be right around 70 degrees by noon today. I think 73 will be our afternoon high temperature. Going to get better as we head into the weekend. Maybe you got some cleaning up to do. No, I certainly do. We'll talk more about that in the full forecast coming up, of course, and we'll lay out what you can expect as we head into next week. Perhaps you have some plans going on, and so we'll talk about that as we head into next week. Meteorologist Nicole talking about some of the power outages around the area.
Yeah, we've been tracking these really closely. It's a number that fluctuates a lot because we have a lot of crews that are out trying to fix the power outages, but we're still dealing with downed trees and downed power lines from the oversaturated ground. So this is is a map of power outages across Georgia, the entire state, that takes into account all of the power companies, and the darker reds, the oranges, that's where the percentage of people without power is highest. So of course it's the highest down into portions of South Georgia, out towards East Georgia, where they experience the hurricane force winds. The percentage of people not quite as high here in North Georgia, but when we switch it to just the Georgia power customers, this shows you based on the sheer number of people. So because we have so many customers through Fulton County that have Georgia Power, even though the percentage of people without power is only 5 to 10%, it's still a large number of people that is impacted. Right now across North Georgia, Georgia Power customers, they have nearly 2,700,000, and there are over 700,000 customers impacted. In Fulton County specifically, that's where we have 26,845 customers affected. We also have 42,000 customers affected in DeKalb County. Up towards Cobb County, just over 5,600 customers affected there. Out towards Clayton County, over 7,000 people currently without power. In Henry County, we have 4,545 people without power. And then up towards Gwinnett, just about 9,600 people without power. So impacts have been widespread when it comes to the power outages across North Georgia. As I said, this is a number that will change a lot over the course of the next few hours. We could see power outages that are repaired as crews get out on and fix some of those downed power lines that are working hard to make sure those power outages are restored. We also still have the risk for additional downed trees that could lead to more power outages throughout the day today. Cheryl.
All right, Nicole, thanks a lot. So our crews are on the ground, riding through Metro Atlanta, tracking all the damage.
We're going to go live to Bobeth Yates. Bobeth, tell us, what are you seeing on the roads right now?
Well, surprisingly, people are awake and they're not acting like there was a storm, okay? The roads are packed, even though it's still slippery and wet out here. Speeds are also pretty high. We're traveling around 60 miles an hour and we're seeing people speed around us. The good news, though, is there's not a lot of pooling, not a lot of flooding, but again, still wet, still slippery. So we're still advising people to slow down. But let me show you what we're looking at. So this is 85 southbound. We're passing Shallowford right now, but you can see a lot of folks are out. You know, the road's almost like, again, I won't say quite as our normal heavy traffic, but you can see the volume has continued to build progressively in the last few hours. And folks are not heeding any warnings when it comes to speed. Definitely, you know, traveling in very fast speeds as we head south on 85 back into town. But we've been all over the area, and what we've noticed is on many of the major highways, while the highways themselves are clear, off to the side you can see some down trees that either have been moved off the roadway or did not make it to the roadway, like fell off in the side. So it looks like things are really good over here. Of course, we'll continue to follow this and drive in some areas and bring you more updates from the damage that we have seen. Sending it back to you guys in the studio, ladies.
All right, Bobeth, thank you. Liza Lucas joining us in the Hanover West neighborhood in Buckhead, where we've seen water rescues happening all morning, Liza, as those homeowners were stranded inside as those flood waters came rushing in. What are we seeing right now?
Well, the good news is the team seems to be wrapping up. Now, they are here on site. We want to give them a little shout out for the hard work that they've done. So I'm going to get out of the way here, and you can see that swift water rescue team from Atlanta Fire. I know they're exhausted. They've been out really bringing in homeowners, not only here in Hanover West, but really the different parts of Atlanta where Peachtree Creek has just swollen overnight and just gone way beyond what we really anticipated. I know Chesley talked about it being 3 feet above flood stage. Well, the good news, since we've been here over the course of the last 2 hours, we've seen several boats, several families come out of their homes. One family we talked with, they said they were kind of monitoring the situation over the course of the night, and then around 5 a.m., that's when they noticed, this is not going down. The river is not subsiding, and so that's when things got a little more dire. But on the whole, everybody seems to be doing relatively well. The neighbors have been great out here. The whole neighborhood, or not the whole neighborhood, but but a big chunk of the Hanover West neighborhood has been on standby, talking to each other, supporting each other, ready for these families as they get off the boat, making sure everybody's okay. So overall, it's been a good situation. I talked with one of the families that got up, and they said that the good news is that it's just stuff. It could have been much worse. Everybody is essentially okay. And so that's the good news story that we have here in Hanover West after the aftermath of Helene. And it was a significant one, guys.
All right, Liza, thank you. And you are in Atlanta, where we saw a lot of floodwaters come in areas that it happens pretty frequently. Let's go to Caitlin Ross now. She was actually at the press conference with Mayor Andre Dickens inside that Joint Operations Center. Caitlin, we're going to talk more about the vast efforts that we are seeing there from the city in this response.
Yeah, the mayor talking about
exactly
how much work they did overnight and what they're expecting the rest of the day.
Caitlin.
Right, exactly, Cheryl and Aisha. Mayor Dickens opened by saying he was so grateful that incredibly in the city of Atlanta, even though we saw tremendous flooding, trees coming down, limbs coming down, power outages, there was no loss of life and no significant injuries. Now, if you put that in the context of how many people had to be rescued, saved from their homes, their cars, it's amazing that people weren't more seriously injured. He did take a moment to acknowledge, though, that there was serious injury and fatalities across the state, but here within the city limits, he says, really, people were protected. They did stay inside. They did heed those warnings. And he says that's going to continue through today. It's really important that people continue to stay safe, because even though it's not raining right now, all of the rain that we got is making the ground really wet, really loose, and he anticipates more trees are going to come down. There are going to be more power outages. So he says you really want to continue to stay alert throughout this afternoon. Take a listen.
All of the crews that were out there, from fire rescue to Georgia Power to APD, Public Works, our Parks and Recreation Forestry crew, the DOT folks that have to block off roads, they were all in danger throughout the night. And so we make sure that they take safety precautions. We make sure that they're definitely making sure that they think about safety first while they try to render care to someone else. And we're thankful that we have not had any reports of any of our employees experiencing any medical issues.
And so that message of safety first was really what he hit on over and over again. He says the city went really hard in making sure that people who are unhoused in the city were safe last night. They actually went around providing transportation, getting those folks into shelters, or actually using the AMC campus to make sure that they were out of the elements, that they had somewhere to sleep for the night. For today, he knows a lot of people still don't have power. So I thought this was interesting. They're actually taking 4 mobile units. They're going to deploy them around the city, and people can go charge their devices there. They can make a call, get dry, get some access to some snacks, some water. And so they're going to publish those areas where those 4 trucks are going to be a little bit later today. But he says this is nowhere near done, and the city is going to continue to stay on alert. In that Joint Operations Center, they had dozens and dozens of people. He said 20 different departments working together, and they're going to continue to work together until we're really past all of this. Cheryl and Aisha?
All right, Caitlin, thank you. As we move on to other parts in the city of Atlanta where we saw those flood waters just really take over certain areas, let's get to 11 Alive's Ariana Manise out there.
Near the intersection of Alton Road and Woodward Way, and behind me is Peachtree Creek, and it looks like Peachtree River at this hour. Now, neighbors, they've been coming out here all morning, really stunned to see this area like this. One neighbor says the last time she saw it like this was back in 2009, and she said it took days for the water to recede. But she says she's never seen it to this point right here. She did acknowledge that this is what they call a floodplain, and as we were building up to any impacts from Helene, neighbors, they were warned that they were in this area and that the creek could rise, but they did not expect it for it to get to this point. Now, there's a car over here in this area. It is in the Betty Young Park. We're learning that someone had to be rescued from that car overnight. There is a home kind of further back in this area. Someone had to be rescued from that home overnight. And also there is a home kind of a little further down the road. We're learning that a neighbor, she said around 3 a.m. this morning, firefighters knocked on her door for permission to go through her backyard, cut through her fence to rescue someone from the home behind this area. Now, just to give you some perspective to where we are, we're in the Peachtree Battle area, and behind this creek is the Bobby Jones Golf Course. And you see this water just swiftly moving through this area. People are just coming by, just really shocked at this point because they did not expect this water to rise to this point. One man, he called it the 100-year flood because he says, like I mentioned, they have not seen the water rise to this point since 2009. We're going to continue to try to talk to some neighbors to see their perspective of this area, but as I mentioned, at least 3 water rescues we can confirm from this area. Everyone, they were able to make it out safely from this point. Back to you.
Ariana, and I'm thinking about all those families because as saturated as the soil is, all the water we see there behind you, it's going to take some time to recede because there's just nowhere for it to go. The water's, can't absorb into soil that's already drenched.
Yeah, that's right, Cheryl. And one young lady I spoke to, she says that up until this point, the creek was pretty low. She says that they hadn't had some rain in some days. So they did not, once again, they did not expect the creek to rise to this point and turn into a Peachtree River. So pretty much just a sense of a shock at this point.
All right, and requiring some patience in the days ahead. Ariana, thanks a lot.
A woman is recovering in the hospital today after officials say a tree fell on her home in Spalding County and it caused the roof to collapse. They say neighbors actually heard that loud boom and then heard her cries out for help, so they called 911. Look how big that tree is. You can barely see the house. First responders were able to get that woman out of there, and thankfully she is expected to be okay. Well, sadly, this storm system turned deadly. 2 people are dead after a possible tornado hit the city of Alamo. That is just southeast of Warner Robins. The sheriff says the possible tornado is a result of Hurricane Helene. Now, we do know that there are at least 6 deaths from the storm all across the southeast, including Florida and North Carolina.
11 Live Savannah 11s is indicator for us today where several communities are dealing with downed trees and power outages. Savannah, what you are seeing is playing out in pockets all over Metro Atlanta and all over the state, that recovery effort to try to get the lights back on.
Yeah, that's right. And I can tell you, as homeowners are dealing with power outages, drivers are having to navigate a lot as well. Within a 1-mile radius of where I am right now at North Druid Hills Road and Stone Mountain Freeway, I've seen at least half a dozen trees down, many of them on power lines. In fact, the traffic lights behind me just came on in the last 30 minutes. Let me step aside so that you can see this tree down. Now, this particular tree is not on power lines, and we've been talking about how Georgia Power is really trying to prioritize the trees that are impacting lines. There was a tree down just half a mile down the road here on a bunch of lines that took down all of these traffic lights as well, causing certainly a dangerous situation for drivers. Right now here going onto Stone Mountain Freeway, drivers are trying to navigate around this tree, several others nearby as well. And I also want to pan over to this side here. This, you guys, is South Fork Peachtree Creek. Creek being the operative word there. You can see how quickly that water is moving. Generally, right here, it's about a trickle, if that. You're certainly not seeing these rapids like you're seeing right now. You can kind of see the water line at one point was even higher than this, and there are homes along this creek right here. It does not appear that any have seen any significant flooding that would require any sort of water rescue, but I do know homeowners over here, many of them experienced some water in their basements, some minor flooding, flooding in their yards, things like that as well. But certainly Georgia Power crews working right now to get that power back on. In DeKalb County, 41,000 customers without power right now. It was about 44,000 3 hours ago. So they're going slow and steady trying to get this power back. The city of Decatur has about 733 people without power right now, and that's a relatively small amount. DeKalb, the power outages are affecting about 13% of all customers, so certainly not everyone, but that number is slowly going down now that the rain has kind of cleared out and the winds are dying down a bit. But that power outage we saw just down the street where the trees were on the lines there, we saw one Georgia Power lineman working on that thing for about 4 hours. So you can tell that Georgia Power crews are really spread thin right now, but they are out in earnest trying their best to find those priority areas and get the power back on. In the meantime, I've seen a lot of people people making mistakes out on the roads here. You're going to come across trees. You're going to come across standing water. I've seen a car try to go through standing water and nearly get stuck and have to turn around. Unfortunately, not all of those areas are blocked off yet, so you're going to have to use discretion. And when you're coming across these trees, follow the guidance of the police officers who are here on the scene. I actually saw a police officer pull someone over who tried to drive over power lines. Now, luckily, those power lines were not live, so that person wasn't injured, but it so easily could have been a very dangerous, even deadly situation. Do not drive over power lines. It is illegal. If you come across a traffic light that is out, we've seen a lot of that, treat it as a four-way stop. These are all just important reminders if you do have to go out today. Now, the good news, you guys, a lot of schools and businesses closed for the day, getting a lot of alerts as a resident myself of this area that a lot of businesses have closed down. So we're not seeing nearly as many cars as we would see on this stretch of North Druid Hills on a Friday afternoon as we normally would. So that's certainly good. Stay inside if you can, guys, and please just be patient if you do have your power out. Make sure you're safe, but know that these crews are out here working on it.
All right, we just have a few scattered showers left over. All that heavy rain that fell in our area is now out of the way. Good news there. Sort of a sigh of relief, right? But we still have to be weather aware thanks to the winds that's out there. We have some gusty winds around, ground saturated, as we've been mentioning, all night long, all morning long. And so some of the weakened trees could still fall over because of those wind gusts. And so that's what we have to watch out for. Even if you're going out or planning to go out and assess your land or your area or your home, you definitely need to be on the lookout for some of those winds around that could blow some of those loose limbs as well. You notice in the Atlanta metro area, it looks like we got a break from even the clouds, but we still have some low-level cloudiness out there. We'll start up here to the north where we have just a few sprinkles. You can see over toward Gilmer County, over toward Carter K, Calhoun, and Gordon County as well. We do have a few light sprinkles there over toward Lafayette, down toward Somerville. Rome starting to clear out a little bit. You notice again down here to the south, our rain is over. We're done with it. Yep. You may get a sprinkle or two. That's about it. We have some low-level cloudiness around, and that will continue to be the case as we head through the rest of the afternoon. The storm system itself is pushing further off to the north. Still a tropical storm, but pushing off to the north. The severe weather has been over toward the east of us and now pushing into parts of North Carolina. Still having tornadoes in that area there. We're on the back side of this, so low threat for that. In fact, no threat for the rest of the afternoon. We're fine. There's a better look at the storm now. Packing winds up to 45 miles per hour. Continuing to move to the north at about 32 miles per hour, so very fast mover. It will continue to dissipate, join with another area of low pressure further off to the north where it looks like it's just meandering around. It kind of joins with another area of low pressure up there. Our winds starting to die off just a little bit. Now, they'll still be with us. These are sustained winds in the teens for the most part. We had them in the 20s. You're still looking at 21 mile per hour wind there in Marietta. When we talk about the gust, we're talking about gust in the 25 to 30 mile per hour range. The further east you go, they get a little bit higher, like up toward Clayton, nearer to the center of circulation. You got a 33 mile per hour gust. And the higher up you go into the elevation, those winds get a little bit gusty as well. Looking at temperatures right now, we're in the 60s, 70-degree mark right there in Covington. That's your warm spot so far this afternoon. I think we'll all heat up into the low 70s for highs, right around 73 degrees for a forecast high temperature for today. Flooding really the issue for us, and it's going to continue around the area. Notice down to the south, a lot of that watch has been shaved off, but we still have the warnings that's in the red that you see right there. That water still running off, and so it's going to continue to swell our area, creeks and streams, so be on the lookout. Severe weather threat over. We had a light green shade over us. The rain itself will be up here to the north, and again, that will be ending as well. Forecast track model shows us that the rain pushing further off to the north. You notice it trying to give us a few breaks in the clouds. You may get a sliver of sunshine or two, but don't look for too much. We'll hold on to a 20% chance this afternoon for an isolated shower or two up here to the north. Now, it's going to be this way for the next couple of days as that area of low pressure continues to spin around. So we'll get some sunshine early on, but then the clouds will overtake us, and we'll have about a 20% chance for a sprinkle or two for Saturday afternoon. We'll do the same on Sunday. Start you off with some sun, and then once we get to the afternoon, the clouds start to overtake us, and we'll have a sprinkle or two around the forecast area. We'll see those temperatures gradually warming up as we go as well, and I think these clouds will continue to clear out as that area of low pressure continues to dissipate up to the north, and we'll get some sunshine back into the forecast area where we'll see our temperatures really start to warm up. Our 11 Live weather impact today continues because of the rain that because of the wind that we have around, and again, it could knock over some trees, so we have to be aware. 77 degrees for you Saturday, Sunday up to 79. We're going to hit those 80s as we start the work week next week. We'll start off with partly sunny skies and then nothing but sunshine for the rest of the week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and the temperatures will hang out in the low 80s, right around 81 degrees or 80 degrees. That's about where we should be for this time of year, so we'll finally get back there again as we head into next week. But the weekend looks way better than what we have been over the last couple of days, so really it's a nice change for us and a chance to really dry out. Now, I will say that the wind does act as a drying agent, so by tomorrow, things should have begun to recede, and our roadways and sidewalks should begin to dry up by then. And it'll be nice to finally get back into some of those 80s instead of the 70s that we've had or will have over the next couple of days. Guys, back to you.
Chesley, thanks a lot. So as we continue to monitor Helene, you can watch free extended weather coverage always on 11 Alive Plus. It's a free download on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV. You can also stay weather aware always with our 11 Alive mobile app in case your power goes out. We know a lot of people have experienced this in the last 12 hours. Just scan this QR code on your screen so that you always have the information you need right in the palm of your hand.
All right, more damage should get across the area. A closer look in Cobb County right now.
Rebecca Lindstrom joining us from the Paces Ferry area. Rebecca, a lot of trees down there.
Absolutely. In fact, just getting into this neighborhood, we had to take a couple different turns in order to dodge some of those trees and the blocked roads. But where I am right now, I am in a residential neighborhood just off of Paces Ferry Drive. That's actually the name of this dead-end street. And it's hard to believe that this really is a residential street because, like so many other scenes that you have seen this morning, it looks more like a river. And while this area is known for being prone to flooding, most of the homeowners that we've talked with say they're able to get their cars out of the way onto higher ground. Clearly, at least one car owner not able to do that in time. Spoke with some family of the individuals that live here at this house. They say that it has flooded at least 4 times, the worst being in 2009. A lot of people remember the flooding that happened in this very month that year. And since then, these homes, they've known to try to get ready and prepare for flooding situations like this. We have some video that I hope we're able to show you right now. It is a gentleman who is actually coming from his house at the end of this street by kayak so that he could get his dog to dry land. You hear the generators going in the background. The homes in this area, we're told most of them are raised up, so the water that has flooded into these houses is mainly in the basement area or where those cars would be parked. So people, you know, again, they don't want this kind of flooding, but the sense that we are getting is that this neighborhood is very well prepared for what happened. Now, if we kind of walk up the street here, you can see that there are just all these cars. Again, these are the cars that were parked so that they could get out of the way, to get out of the flooding. On the other side of this berm is probably the biggest icon of this area, and that is the restaurant Canoe. That parking lot completely submerged. We had a chance to talk with an employee earlier today about what that was like and, you know, what that area normally looks like, and she just said, you know, usually we've got the patio tables that are out, we've got a beautiful garden landscape area, and all of that has just been taken over by the river, which is moving high, it is moving fast. It has flooded the football fields that are on the school on the other side, and so people just coming out to this area, even though they might have seen it before, they just want to compare, and that is really the conversation that's happening right now. Better than 09, worse than 09. The general sense is that this is better, although anytime you've got to clean up from a mess like this, it is certainly a headache. All information that we've been able to get, though, at this point is that everyone is safe, and it's just that property damage that folks are going to have to be dealing with in the days ahead. Back to you.
All right, Rebecca, thank you. That is an area a lot of people know very well. Let's take you to Sandy Springs right now. Police asking everyone to please stay off the roads. Scenes like this